Cronkite News brings you access across Arizona.
We're launching a brand new initiative to cover the state of Arizona like no other media organization. The project is called Access Across Arizona. It's a mission to send our Cronkite News reporters to every county in the state to uncover stories and issues in areas not often seen on the news. We're starting with a trip to Mojave County, where community's way of life depends on the survival of trout. A fish hatchery that serves the economies of Willow Beach, Bullhead City, and Kingman faces an uncertain financial future. Our reporter, Tweelon Nugent, is live in Lake Havasu City. Tweelon, how big is this problem?
Well, it's easy to think that fish just naturally live in the rivers and streams of northwestern Arizona. But Willow Beach Fish Hatchery usually supplies about 144,000 trout to the waters. This year, that number is down to only 20,000.
This area here, though maybe the far end of the world, lost and forgotten, but it has a lot to offer.
Rusty Brown runs a small tackle shop in Marina, but he's seeing a big problem.
When that first happened, it was just like devastating for everybody, even the big box stores, Walmart, Big Five, all their sales were down. People were just so disappointed.
The problem, not enough fish in Mojave County's lakes and rivers to entice visitors to the area. It all flows from a problem at Willow Beach Fish Hatchery, about an hour north along the Colorado River.
There are currently 2 water pipelines that come in from the Colorado River that feed our production pumps that feed the water to the fish. And one of those pipelines is actually physically broken off.
Less water being fed into the hatchery means less fish the hatchery can actually maintain. And that's bad news for businesses whose livelihood relies on sport fishers who come from all over the country.
Wisconsin, Chicago, New Mexico, Las Vegas.
Willow Beach Fish Hatchery also supplies trout to this river system in Bullhead City, but this year 40,000 less trout will be released across Mojave County because of the pipeline damage. Senator John McCain and Congressman Paul Gosar have both written letters to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department urging immediate action to restore the trout stocking program at Willow Beach, a federal facility.
I'm keeping my bite on the director's leg. He made a promise and he's going to keep that promise. And so I will continue barking and biting until it actually gets done.
Congressman Gosar has also sponsored legislation to protect hatcheries across the country. Local leaders are also urging the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department to act quickly.
We don't have the luxury of time. We have to make a decision fast. And that's what this is all about.
We have the capability of having more fish on station right now. However, we won't in 3 weeks. We'll have a capability of 0.
For Rusty Brown, the photos on his wall are proud mementos of successful anglers. But he fears without the fish from Willow Beach, the photos will just sink into the past.
This picture here.
As Arizona's senior population continues to age, safety of the elderly has become a growing concern, especially in rural communities. Cronkite News reporter Annalise Ortiz traveled to Cochise County to talk about measures the sheriff's office is taking to keep the elderly and other citizens safe.
Yes, I'm here in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Now, even in larger rural areas like Sierra Vista or Bisbee, the Cochise County seat, some homes can be miles apart, and that becomes an issue for the elderly or disabled who don't have a neighbor nearby to just knock on the door and ask if they're okay. Now, that's one of the reasons why the Cochise County Sheriff's Office decided to jumpstart a program that helps take the worry out of being alone.
This is the Cochise County Sheriff's Office checking on you.
Every morning, Sheila Gore receives the call.
Please enjoy your day and be safe.
When the phone rings at 9 o'clock, I know it's time to get up.
It's part of a program called Are You Okay? A free service that gives the disabled, elderly, or mentally incapacitated of Cochise County peace of mind by having an automated service check on them regularly.
All my family is out of this area. They're all up around Phoenix. So if I do need help, I have it.
Now, this is the computer from which the Are You Okay messages are sent out. And if nobody answers that message, members of the Cochise County Sheriff's Office are on hand to pick up the phone and give them or their emergency contacts a call. And if no one answers, a sheriff's deputy is sent to her door.
We are acting as their lifeline.
The sheriff's office says this program is crucial for some cities in Cochise.
We're talking rural. We have neighbors who can be a mile from each other, 2 miles from each other, 4 miles from each other. And these people sometimes don't have anyone to help take care of them.
And many of those citizens, like Sheila, are seniors. The elderly population of Cochise County is nearly 4% higher than the statewide average, according to the U.S. Census.
This helps us help them.
And by using willing neighbors and relatives as volunteers, that in turn reduces the workload on 84 sworn officers who are responsible for protecting a county that spans more than 62,000 square miles.
It does take us about an hour to get from one point to the other.
All right, and your fruit's just right. But the distance between cities doesn't stop law enforcement from maintaining personal relationships with citizens. The sheriff's office says in the 4 years the program has been in effect, it's helped build a stronger sense of community.
Right? You look really good. Thank you.
And there's things that maybe we have as a more rural county than you have in a metropolitan area such as Phoenix. There's been situations where one woman in particular, calls just to say, how are you? Thank you so much for having us on or having me on the program.
A relationship Sheila is grateful for.
The phone call is so important.
Every day.
The sheriff's department's closest, might as well say, relative that I have.
The police department in one central Arizona city has a new way for families to cope with the fallout of Alzheimer's disease. Cronkite News reporter Mackenzie Scott traveled to Yavapai County to learn more about a $50,000 grant to help Prescott Police and the community. Mackenzie joins us from Prescott Live.
Of those who reside in Prescott, about 1,000 are currently living with Alzheimer's. That's why last weekend's annual Walk to End Alzheimer's had such a large turnout and why Prescott Police's Alzheimer's initiative was started.
I'm here on the walk to support it. My father passed away with Alzheimer's, my uncle, and another aunt.
Dorothy Lavarnway is just one of many whose family has been impacted by Alzheimer's. She joined more than 500 people for Prescott's Walk to End Alzheimer's. 5.3 million people in the United States have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
We have a great community up here, but it's a retirement type of a community, or a portion of it. Part of the process for that was seeing the future of Alzheimer's and how it affects our population in general. It applies to our community.
The Prescott Police Station is one of 3 stations nationwide chosen for this grant. Officers like Scott work with nonprofit organizations. The main goal for the partnership:
help alleviate some of the tension that occurs when first responders or when law enforcement officials come to people's homes when they're having some challenges with behavioral care.
The Desert Southwest chapter of the Alzheimer's Association and the Prescott Police collaborated on one main thing: a registry. The Alzheimer's alert form is submitted through computer-aided dispatch and makes it easier for first responders to quickly access critical information.
You may not get Alzheimer's. Yes, ma'am.
For Lavarnway, she thinks the community will benefit from the police being more involved.
I think that's good because they need to know that these people, that when they do wander, that they need help.
Mount Graham is popular for its large telescopes used for stargazing, for its trails and camping, and one specific type of endangered squirrel. Cronkite News reporter Megan Thompson went to Graham County, where the community is trying to save the Mount Graham red squirrel. She joins us live in a nearby city of Safford.
Well, from Phoenix to right here in Graham County, state officials are coming together to try to save the Mount Graham red squirrel. Now, even though they're incredibly difficult to spot, the efforts to save them are out in full force.
Hidden among the trees, a small number call this place home.
And they're very important to humans on this mountain because they are an endangered subspecies.
The Mount Graham red squirrels are named for the only mountain they live on in the world, but their population has been spiraling downward over the past 15 years.
The population, as long as we've known it, has never actually been a very big population, so it's always been small.
In 1999, there were more than 560 red squirrels, but as of last year, only 270 were left.
Now, walking among the forests and the trails here at Mount Graham, it might be incredibly difficult to spot one of those red squirrels. That's mostly because their population is so low. It could be because of the lack of habitat, fires, and other animals that are invading their space.
Now there's a plan in place to launch a recovery, and it's happening back in the valley.
We were able to see things here that might not be as easily observable in their natural habitat.
The Phoenix Zoo, along with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, have developed a new breeding pilot program they hope will save the species.
Our goal is to work with these animals that are either threatened or endangered and hopefully develop a program where we can get reproduction here with animals so that they could survive being released back to their natural habitat.
The biggest challenge, these squirrels are incredibly territorial.
They may not, kill each other, but they'll definitely it'll look like that's what's going on. They really don't like anybody coming into their space.
And this makes it harder for them to mate. Researchers have found there is only 1 day a year a female is receptive to mating. And in that day, there's only an 8-hour window.
In the wild, when they chase each other away from their territory, they have a long way to run.
In the breeding facility, the squirrels are in single cages to prevent aggression. And this 10-year pilot program is all aimed at understanding how to raise the Mount Graham red squirrels, getting them out of Phoenix and back to their home on the mountain.
A new federal grant is helping young people stay away from drug use in western Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Darby Fitzgerald traveled to Paz County to see how the new funds are helping build safer communities. She joins us now from the town of Parker. Darby?
The Colorado River attracts thousands of recreational enthusiasts every year, but that transient lifestyle can have a negative effect for the youth that live here year-round.
A lot of kids turn to drugs because of their family problems or whatever it is, but they turn to drugs, and a lot of them get stuck in that lifestyle.
Hortensia Yazzie knows firsthand how the alcohol and drug abuse cycle starts. She's a graduate of a program called PACE, Parker Area Alliance for Community Empowerment. Their mission? Promote a drug-free, violence-free community to the youth in the area.
It's more about, I think, making good life choices so they can be successful in life, and of course, not using drugs and avoiding those pitfalls.
Recently, PACE has been awarded the White House's 5-year drug-free community grant. This provides funding to coalitions working to prevent youth substance abuse. And the most popular substances can be found in many homes.
Alcohol and prescription drug abuse.
Lieutenant Bagby of the Narcotics Task Force tells us how young adults are getting a hold of these prescription drugs.
They'll go, into a neighbor's home, or their parents have left some painkillers behind that they never finished, and that's the kind of stuff that is causing problems in the schools.
He believes the PACE program is a successful and a positive environment for kids.
They're there every day. It's a center for the kids to go. It keeps them off the streets. It keeps them doing something. It keeps them busy, but it also keeps adults kind of in tune with what kids are doing and what maybe the trends are.
And while the adults are helping the kids at PACE, they also help law enforcement by keeping them informed on any drug activity in Parker. For those wanting to avoid falling into the drug abuse cycle, PACE is a safe haven.
They can connect here without the pressure of school or pressure of work. Even if you're working here, you don't feel like you're pressured or anything. You just feel it's like a community.
Yazzie is now a parent herself and has turned her life around. Her children are in PACE to learn the lessons she wishes she'd taken more to heart.
It made me aware. I mean, I knew, when I was doing wrong, I knew what it was. I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing it, but, I still did it. And I think that players, and the PACE program played a big role in that.
Tonight we highlight a health concern in the waters of eastern Arizona. Reporters Winnie Mancini and Kayla Wall visited the town of Clifton, where residents are taking steps to reduce E. coli pollution along the county's San Francisco River. We'll start tonight's Access Across Arizona coverage with Winnie, who joins us live near the San Francisco River. Winnie?
This bridge I'm standing on in the town of Clifton leads to a popular recreation spot on the San Francisco River. In fact, it's so popular, now people are taking steps to protect it. Gliding over stones on a sunny day, the waters of the San Francisco River look fresh and untouched. But nestled in this green canyon, the river is a popular destination for humans.
On a holiday weekend, it's well over 400 vehicles.
Greenlee County engineer Phil Ronrud says that with up to 1,200 visitors, there is an issue. People are up a creek when it comes to facilities.
When you go camping, you do what you do where you need to do it.
So many people answering nature's call near the river has led to a pollution problem, unsafe levels of E. coli in the water. Ronald says environmentally concerned citizens found the solution, installing a restroom along the riverbank in the town of Clifton.
Just a few steps away from the banks of the San Francisco River, I'm standing on top of a 1,000-gallon holding tank. Wastewater from the tank will get pumped over the river from here.
Chalk lines mark where the new restroom will stand. The county engineer says the path to the bathroom was paved through collaboration with stakeholders like Deborah Mendelson.
You know, when you live on a river, it becomes such a big part of your life.
Founder of Friends of the Frisco, Mendelson encourages people to enjoy the river's natural beauty more responsibly.
There is no recreation management on the San Francisco.
Mendelson and Ronrod came up with the toilets as a main way visitors can be friendlier to the river.
There were a lot of people who really wanted to protect it and who were thrilled to have a group come together.
Now, Greenlee County residents can look forward to a healthy river to wade in. In Clifton, Winnie Mancini, Cronkite News.
I'm Kayla Wall, continuing our live team coverage. Before the restroom project could get off the ground, the water had to be tested by specialists. I was able to see this procedure firsthand and find out why it's so important to this project.
For a number of years now, the San Francisco River through the Clifton area in Greenlee County has been listed as impaired because of the E. coli bacteria that are there.
Experts have had to test the water in Greenlee County each year to see whether the number of colonies has increased or decreased.
As a regular basis, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality samples rivers and streams all over the state of Arizona, and they state all of the different elements that are analyzed for and what their levels are for that particular year.
Water testing specialists use a procedure called membrane filtration to test for the presence of E. coli in water samples.
So we collect 100 ml, filter 100 ml, put it on a media like this, wait 24 hours, and then if you get colonies just like the one I'm showing you here, that is a positive test for E. coli present.
High levels of E. coli indicate high levels of fecal pollution.
So if you have a high level of E. coli, more likely you're going to have a higher risk of getting sick from other pathogens that they are fecally related.
Edie says that although wildlife and livestock may contribute to the E. coli, he hopes the bathrooms will help lower the bacteria levels.
So it could be any and all of those contributing to it. The biggest thing for us that we can most control at this point in time is the human bacteria portion of it.
The restrooms out here should be up and running in about 2 months, and all of those involved hope to see a significant decrease in bacteria levels.
The scarcity of qualified teachers in Arizona has some public school districts scrambling to fill the openings. Our Cronkite News team went to Pinal County and found that the Casa Grande Union High School District was one of those districts that had to recruit teachers from elsewhere.
In the state of Arizona, there are more than 1,300 openings for elementary and secondary teachers. These positions are often difficult to fill and to retain. So difficult that one high school district here in Pinal County had to recruit teachers from as far away as the Philippines.
Very good, that's the nucleus, okay?
Chemistry teacher Maria Dulce Palomares is prepared for the Arizona heat.
I'm bringing some protective gear so as not to feel really hot, but it's good that in the classroom it's air conditioned.
However, Palomares didn't come to Casa Grande from the Philippines for the climate. Arizona ranks low in the amount of state funding it gives to public education. It's a contributing factor in the state's current teacher shortage. Dr. Shannon Goodsell knows this quite well as superintendent of Casa Grande Union High School District.
It makes it very difficult for us to both attract and to maintain our current teaching force simply because of the structure of our salary schedule scale. We do the best we can.
He had 19 teacher vacancies at the end of last school year and not one applicant. The high school district searched locally and nationally for qualified teachers to fill the openings. They were able to hire a few educators from Pennsylvania. However, the superintendent still needed more teachers.
But that still did not fill all of the positions that we had in the district. So then our last and final step was to look internationally.
They contacted an agency that linked the school district to a list of qualified international teachers. After watching YouTube videos of different teachers in action and conducting numerous Skype interviews, Dr. Goodsell selected 11 math and science teachers from the Philippines. Maria Dulce Palomares was one of the 11 teachers hired for the current school year. She acknowledges the importance of participation in the classroom.
Well, it has to be interactive. You need to engage your students a lot. And so every time I teach, I'm always planning ahead of time, and I have to know that most of my students would really participate.
Casa Grande Union High School District's teaching positions are now filled. The district has also hired long-term substitute teachers waiting on testing to become licensed teachers.
About 20 miles north of the Mexican border lies the Arizona town of Arivaca.
For my childhood, it was never a border town. It didn't have those kind of issues like Nogales has. We have them now.
Over the years, the community of about 700 people has become a passageway for migrants entering the United States. The town of Arivaca is just beyond these hills, and some immigrants travel through this desert landscape to get to the town, often ending up on the doorsteps of residents looking for food, water, or medical attention. But in the eyes of some locals, that's not the town's biggest problem.
It has the effect of criminalizing them over and over and over again.
The Border Patrol built this temporary checkpoint outside Arivaca 7 years ago, and with it came an increased Border Patrol presence in the town.
There's more Border Patrols on the road than there is people that live here.
Simply passing through the checkpoint has become a headache for many who live here, like Melissa.
A couple of times they asked me to open my trunk up to see if there's anything in my car.
¿Tu papel, verdad?
Your papers? What are you doing? What are you bringing? Where were you? Where were you coming from? These are types of questions they shouldn't be asking. Those are not good questions.
One advocacy group, People Helping People, monitors the checkpoint. They say they have evidence of racial profiling.
Even though, over 9 times as many people coming through the checkpoint were white, the majority of people who referred to secondary for further questioning and search were Latino.
The Border Patrol wouldn't discuss the claim on camera, but in a written statement, the agency insists CPB does not tolerate racial profiling or agent misconduct and appropriately investigates allegations of wrongdoing. And some Arivaca locals appreciate the sense of safety that comes with increased law enforcement.
Just in the newspaper I published last month, someone wrote a letter that said, please stop complaining about Border Patrol. I really like that they have this tower next to my yard and they watch me all the time because it makes me feel safer.
People Helping People started a petition to call for the removal of the checkpoint. While there's no indication the Border Patrol plans to make a change, agents say they'll continue holding meetings and addressing local concerns.
To some, it may just look like a plot of dirt, but to others, it's an eternal resting place. Tracing Arizona's history can be difficult, but one organization is helping modernize the past. As part of our Access Across Arizona project, we're traveling to every county in the state to bring you often untold stories. Tonight, we head to Gila County in the city of Globe, where some volunteers are working to preserve a piece of our state's history. Reporter Colton Krolak joins us now live from Globe. Colton?
That's right. Cronkite reporter Lacey Darrow and I traveled to Globe, Arizona, here in Gila County, to track down those who are dedicated to preserving Arizona history. But it's not the typical historic sites they're worried about preserving, it's grave sites. These mounds represent lives of Globe residents who have helped settle this area as far back as the 1800s. The Globe, Arizona Cemetery has several thousand plots, but many of the families of the deceased have long moved away. That's where findagrave.com comes in.
Find a Grave is a resource or a service to people who do not live necessarily in this area, who want to obtain a picture or a location for a loved one.
Anyone looking for information regarding a relative can log on to the site and do a search. Volunteers like Joe Scammell and Leanne Powers have spent countless hours walking the cemetery, taking photos of the memorials, and uploading them to the site so that families of the deceased can see the memorial without having to travel to the remote area.
As a legacy of our history, our Arizona history, of our Globe history,
it's important to remember these people and to try to get the information as accurate as we can.
But over the decades, many of the markers indicating who lies below have become weathered, vandalized, or simply did not exist in the first place.
But we know that there's somebody buried there. We just can't tell you who.
During the time periods that a lot of these people were buried was late 1800s, early 1900s. People were very poor, and there are a great many of those graves, and graves of children and babies. They didn't have the money to put markers on there.
Together, using newspapers, the internet, and other historical items, the volunteers try to identify the individual in every plot of the cemetery. They also receive requests from families who are looking for a long-lost loved one. Sometimes, they're able to send them a picture of the memorial.
There's Bill Green! There he is, but looking for him!
Other times, they simply cannot be found.
We'll give that 110% to find the monument, but we can't expend a tremendous amount of time on one individual as much as we'd like to.
Either way, the volunteers are doing their best to preserve a small piece of Arizona history.
We're making a difference. We feel like we're making a difference.
Now, we got to see firsthand how hard these two work. And while we were filming, Leanne and Joe actually found where the grave was of a baby they had been looking for. Live in Globe, Colton Krolak, Cronkite News.
Reaching Arizona's communities uncovered by mainstream media. Discovering the untold stories of our state's women, men, children, and change makers.
We're taking a look at what's making news across Arizona.
This is the Cronkite News Initiative, Access Across Arizona. Live coverage of topics that matter and people who make a difference. Delivered to the homes of Arizona PBS viewers like you. Access Across Arizona is made possible by Women and Philanthropy.